This ship ferries 4,000 cars. Yours could have been on it. This tanker helps carry half the world's oil. Your central heating could depend on it. This crane is part of an army that moves a quarter of the world's shipping cargo. Your television set could have been carried by it. They're all here in Singapore, the busiest port in the world. Now imagine if it all was forced to a halt. When a megaship decides it's in a hurry, watch out. This is not going to be just another day. The Shenzhen is not a ship that will sail into any port. And it will not allow just anyone to try what he's about to do.
Good morning, sir.
Harbor pilot Joseph is about to squeeze the ship through the narrowest channel of one of the busiest shipping lanes in the world.
Beautiful ship.
This ship has it all. Stretching the length of 4 747s, standing a commanding 19 stories tall, it turns even old sea hands into softies.
There's always a lot of pride in taking a ship like this by sheer size and the kind of power that it has.
If it's about size, this ship's port of call wins hands down. No port gets busier than Singapore. So whether you see it from up there or down here, this is mega. In the heart of Southeast Asia is Singapore, a modern island nation smaller than New York City, but it is home to one of the world's busiest container terminals and some of the world's most important shipyards. An army 6,000 strong keeps the port moving 24/7. At any time of the day, 1,000 ships are docked. Another drops anchor every 2 to 3 minutes. And on the days when a megaship sails in, every second becomes a battle. Get them loaded, on their way, on time. When the pressure mounts, no one will feel the heat like the troops in the front line. Up there in their mega cranes, 10 stories high, these are seasoned soldiers, and they win the rooms with the view.
I think I got the most beautiful view. The sea, you got island opposite me. Every time I come to work, it's so refreshing.
30 minutes and counting. The megaship is on its way in. At the port's traffic control, there is no room for error.
OOCL Shenzhen, this is VTIS East. Good morning, over.
All eyes are fixed on the Shenzhen as it inches through one of the most congested waterways in the world. The bridge of the megaship was designed to run with just one man. But with the traffic outside, even a seasoned pilot needs all the gadgets he can get. The ship's radar tracks real-time its every move, and it monitors everything else that moves near the ship, second by second. But no gadget ever beats hands-on gut feel, especially right now. A sudden tropical storm takes them all by surprise. The Shenzhen slips slowly into its berth, straining against the current, the wind, and the rain.
See the streaks coming that way. A bit of an anxious moment when there was a little bit of wind that came just as the rain was going to come.
Finally, Joseph takes the Shenzhen in, parallel parking a ship as long as 67 cars.
Well, the ship's alongside, and I'll leave it to the terminal to take care of it.
Within minutes, the troops get going and the first container comes down. But this is one of the largest container vessels in the world, so there's a lot more, like enough to fill 1,500 747s. Work has barely begun when new orders come in. The Shenzhen has to take on more cargo, but its departure to Europe, scheduled for tonight, cannot be delayed.
time is precious. We need to depart from this port at a certain time. We just can't sit down here and wait, for all the delays to come.
So the next 15 hours will be a face-off between the mega ship and the mega cranes. In the hands of an expert, each crane moves 35 containers an hour. But on duty today, with a personal best of 45 containers, meet Kiang.
To expedite the turnaround of the vessel, we basically sometimes have to work a standard shift, and we will come back on our day off to help man the equipments.
To beat the clock, he needs a strategy. So here's Kiang's 3-step system. Step 1, max the machine. This is the latest in crane technology, and it lifts 2 containers at a time. Step 2, know your machine. So here's Key Crane 101.
This right-hand lever is actually to hoist and lower down the spreader. Okay, this is to hoist and lower down the spreader. And this left-hand side is to move the crane. We call this trolling. Okay, this is to trolley. And of course, this is a flipper to help us to flip the up and down to basically catch the container. This is the flipper. And of course, to lock and unlock container, this is 2 buttons.
Oh, and one more thing before he forgets.
I think the most important, you must not be afraid of heights.
Actually, here's the all-important step 3. Have a plan. Unloading a ship is not about grabbing the nearest container. Take too much off one end, and this could happen. Meanwhile, at traffic control, more ships keep buzzing in. With 9 radars and cameras throughout the port, the $40 million Vessel Traffic Information Service, or VTIS, can track 5,000 ships in real time, all the time.
As a VTIS operator, it is very similar to an air traffic controller. They control aeroplanes and we control ships.
This is the man with the toughest job in traffic control. Angkok's Beat is the busiest sector of the world's busiest port.
What is happening is this ship, the name is called Zhehai, the 315. She's actually berthed alongside K16, and the pilot has just called me for channel currents to depart from the berth.
From this room, controllers police the waters around Singapore, a vital shipping lane between Europe and Asia. At the route's narrowest point, where vessels are squeezed through channels packed with ships, reefs, and shallows, is the port of Singapore. Without the controllers to sound alerts, some ships may not make it through.
Okay, you don't have collision. You may have vessels proceeding against the general traffic flow. You have vessels going aground, shallow water. You can repeatedly inform him, hey, you are approaching boarding ground Alpha, please proceed at safe speed. If he doesn't check his speed, doesn't drop his speed, he's going to get grounded. And that is very scary. It happens, yeah, in a watch, if you're lucky, it happens one. Lucky, it happens one. If you're unlucky, the whole day is going to be stressful. Your stomach is going to hurt.
This was one of those days. Despite repeated warnings from traffic control, 2 vessels collided just outside Singapore. But the odds that this could happen again are 6 in a million. Because back at traffic control, someone is always on watch.
There can be times where the situation is so tight that you have 5 ships coming into the harbor, another 5 on the way out. And in that kind of tight situation, you have to go to the extent of actually allocating numbers. You're number 1, you're number 2, and you'll be number 3. So everybody just have to comply with very specifically to the instruction, because the situation is so tight, we don't want anything adverse to happen.
But this morning, a situation is developing at one of the main gates into the port. An alarm has gone off. A container truck is hauled aside. Before September 11th, all officers had to worry about were contraband and stowaways. Today, a high-risk container could mean something very different. It's morning rush hour at the port of Singapore. By shipping tonnage, the busiest port in the world. But at port security, nothing slips through without a check, especially after September 11th. Every truck, driver, and container is registered before they arrive. And every detail gets double-checked by scanners and cameras. You'd expect a massive holdup.
All clear. Please proceed.
But the technology clears each truck in 25 seconds. But this morning, alarms have gone off. Drivers are warned to pull aside. Gamma rays now work through the steel. All it takes is 1 minute. Officers now scan the images, looking for dark spots that warn of density changes, a sign of hidden metals. Then they scrutinize for secret compartments or odd shapes that don't tally with the registered cargo.
Container ready for scanning.
The gamma rays are usually all that's needed to confirm a suspicion. But this morning, the officers are still not satisfied with one container. The order goes out for another inspection. The officers keep mum about what they're looking for. A detail doesn't add up. That's all they're prepared to say.
For security reasons, I will not be able to answer to that question, but I can only say that containers have been targeted for scanning are considered as high risk.
These scanners check for signs of radioactive material and hidden explosives. But fortunately, not all inspections are as intense. Not all suspicious shadows turn out to be contraband. Sometimes they turn out to be company to help someone through a long, lonely night.
Okay, Roger.
We found that there's actually a woman was found inside the driver's compartment. And after investigation, we found that it's actually the driver's wife.
They found no stowaways in this shipment of cars, which is just as well. It had to get through with no further delay, because the ship that brought them in earlier this morning arrived 4 hours behind schedule. They've been waiting since 4 a.m. But you don't give up on this dreamboat. No, it's not the largest ship around, but this car carrier is part of a Japanese line that ferries a quarter of all the cars that get shipped around the world.
Really big compared to most of the other ships. We carry almost 4,200 cars at one time, so you could call it a floating car park or a garage.
The ramp gives the carrier its nickname, Ro-Ro. Roll in, roll out. It turns out that Ro-Ro has a good excuse for making everyone wait. It's typhoon season, and Ro-Ro wasn't about to get caught.
Yes, we had to avoid the typhoon and take a little bit of a detour in order to get better weather. Otherwise, a ship of this size also can be shaken up a lot. She rolls and pitches a lot in rough weathers.
Despite cruising in late, Ro-Ro has to leave on time. But there are 560 cars to be rolled out, 750 to be rolled in, and parked inches apart.
This deck, basically in deck number 6, 7,
That's where they come in. The Ro-Ro racers, the elite car jockeys of the world's busiest port. They're confident they'll make it with an hour to spare for lunch.
Why not? We are always fast one.
Call it arrogance, but the Ro-Ro racers are driven by the challenge and they're geared up to go.
Everybody's down.
Our 30 racers have more than 1,000 cars to move before the day is through. But then if you're a jockey with one of Asia's leading car terminals, when you drive 400,000 cars that go through the port each year, this is just another day at work, another routine race against the clock. Within the hour, the racers hit their first target. 200 cars from Japan on the road, heading for new owners impatient for the smell of their new leather seats. Back at the megaship, it's feeding time. A bunker boat brings in diesel for the Shenzhen's run to Europe tonight. But it's not a simple matter of just filling her up. The megaship will guzzle, in just one day, enough fuel to run an economy car for more than 150 years. But by the standards of ship engines, that's excellent fuel consumption. The fuel runs the largest diesel engine in the world, a mean machine that kicks in with more power than 143 top-of-the-range Ferraris. Every minute of the fueling process will be carefully watched. With 5,000 tons of fuel rushing in and the weight of containers on deck shifting about, even megaships can begin to wobble. So here's Plan A. The engineers spread the diesel evenly over the ship's 8 fuel tanks. As for Plan B, they'll pump seawater in and out of its ballast tanks to keep the ship steady.
This is a very important system that we have. This is what we call the anti-heeling system. During the period of loading and discharging, the ship will tend to heel over. This system will automatically upright the vessel.
10 stories above the engine room, Kiang is still trolleying away. Today's a Sunday, but ships and crane operators don't get weekends. Especially now, around October, when the world's cargo fleet works overtime to get the holiday goods into stores by Christmas. With toys stuffed into its containers, the megaship refuses to be late. Only a few of the containers that Kiang unloads today is meant for Singapore. The rest, like transit passengers at an airport, will wait around for the best onward connection to their final destination. So 100,000 boxes are stacked in this yard on any given day. Over 10 years, that's enough to build a container beanstalk all the way to the moon. So there's a chance that something you own, perhaps the TV set you're watching this show on, was zipping around this port sometime in its life. From the world's busiest port, the jet-setting containers head off to 600 other ports in 123 countries. Not many ports have this web of connections, so shippers around the world send their containers through Singapore. With containers and ships zipping in and out, cranes trolling up and down, and cars rolling on and off, it's a wonder this megastructure doesn't fall apart. The secret is Big Brother, Computer Integrated Terminal Operation System, codename CETOS. And this is Central Command. Imagine this is a science fiction movie. CETOS is a supercomputer whose fiber optic tendrils reach every corner of the port. It orders, it controls, and it's always watching. When a container enters the port, it knows. When a ship leaves the harbor, it knows. This morning, CETOS has its eyes on the megaship.
How's the progress? Okay. Crane 21, this is.
Big Brother has ordered that the containers that will be unloaded at the ship's next port of call will be stacked at the top, and the crane operators must obey. Otherwise, the next port may have to unload the entire ship just to get one misplaced container. And this Christmas, there could be no presents under the tree, if not for Big Brother and a man they call the General.
The control center is the heart and nerve system of our container terminal. It is from here we orchestrate and transform all our operation plan into actions.
Singapore has its own computers, which list all the charges for all the services for one client.
In the 1970s, the port had already started using computers, long before PCs and the internet became household words. Back then, things ran on a different scale, fueled by human sweat and sheer brute force, just like when the port was founded almost 200 years ago as a British trading post.
And if the crews haven't time to go ashore to do their shopping, the shops come to the ships. And what's more, you can bargain if you wish.
The port was a place packed with sacks and wooden crates, hauled by ropes and chains, even when the first containers began to arrive. But some things never change. In a country without farms, pastures, forests, or minerals, the port is still Singapore's lifeline. With the world's busiest port at its doorstep, the island city of Singapore depends on the port for almost everything it needs. Without the port, there might be no food, no fun, no festivals. This morning, a refrigerated container of California grapes is being rushed into the city's fruit market, just in time for the Chinese Lantern Festival. These grapes are the last shipment of an incredibly busy week for fruit importers. With the Lantern Festival just days away, this bumper stock is about to be snapped up as offerings at the temple altars all over the city. The first thing they check is the container's black box, a record of its temperature throughout its journey from the United States. A 1 to 5 degree jump in temperature range, and these grapes may not be good enough for the gods.
The temperature is correct.
And now for the real test.
Good. Beautiful. These are high quality grapes.
With the Lantern Festival just 3 days away, the rush for fruit has begun. There are no orchards in Singapore, but the people of Singapore have the world's busiest port to help them please their gods with offerings from 24 countries.
These are seasonal pears from Xinjiang province, from China. These are oranges from Africa. These are from Argentina. They arrived this morning. The ones here are from Brazil. While those are from Australia. And these are imported from the United States.
Now here's the bonus. When you've reached to the four corners of the world for offerings, that's probably the best insurance policy for any business.
I pray to the kitchen god to protect us, to make sure that the fruits we ordered arrive in good condition, and they arrived on time.
3 hours into the challenge, the Roro racers have hit a critical point. 560 cars have been driven out. Now they have to pack in 750 cars, on time, without a scratch. The nerve-wracking moment comes when the cars get parked just one handspan apart. Any wider, and some of those 750 cars may not get in. This is when the Roro racers just go with their gut.
Usually when you whistle this way, then they know something wrong, they gotta stop the car. Usually I just whistle at one time. That means either left, right, straight.
And now, it's payback time. It's the driver's turn to get chauffeured. A quick breather as the racers are ferried to their next lot of cars. This team has been working together for 10 years. They claim they've never had a single accident, and they're not planning on breaking that record today. As the racers face their most hectic moment, a small ship slips in, carrying a big story.
I opened the window and shouted, "Pirates, pirates, pirates."
When you sail into one of the world's busiest ports, you could become rich pickings for pirates.
One of the pirates grabbed me by the neck, and the other one holding me on my arm. And that was the time I realized that the pirates were already on board. I thought that, oh my God, I will be thrown overboard.
It's not exactly the high-tech image you'd expect from a megaport. But when you're at the heart of one of the world's busiest shipping lanes, you just have to go the whole hog and have a terminal for every possible cargo. The Port of Singapore is the world's busiest. Its docks flow with half the world's supply of oil. A quarter of all the cargo that goes around the world passes through its wharves. It moves over 20 million containers from 123 different countries. But all this makes the port a spot for rich pickings. 6 months ago, this ship was some 5 hours out of port in waters around Singapore, where more than 100 pirate attacks occur each year. Over 40% of all the attacks in the world. A small vessel with a small crew, it was a classic target.
I was preparing for bed, and then suddenly I heard some banging outside. So I looked up, shouted at the top of my voice, "Pirates, pirates, pirates!"
It was almost midnight. The men were creeping in with pistols and long knives. There was no doubt what they had in mind. There was one chance the ship could still be saved, but there was not a moment to lose.
Opened my door, ran up to the bridge.
Both captain and pirates were now racing to the bridge, racing to seize control of the ship. At stake were the lives of his crew.
But then before I was able to switch on the alarm, one of the pirates grabbed me by the neck, and the other one holding me on my arm. And that was the time I realized that the pirates were already on board. He asked me first, "Are you the captain?" I said, "No. You know, I've heard so much already that captains are the first to be shot." This is their entrance, coming from the side.
6 pirates had climbed on board, and more were waiting to get in.
This is the place from here. They climb up all the way up here.
Like most mariners, the crew carried no firearms. All they had were fire hoses and container locks to slow the pirates down.
And immediately all the other pirates came in here, and they subdued the duty officer and lighting up.
It was a sailor's worst nightmare. To fight back would have meant certain death. The pirates now forced the captain back into his room and made him open his safe. This afternoon, Captain Edgar leaves for Indonesia, sailing the same route he took that night when he lost $3,000, a couple of cell phones, and, very nearly, his life. With an average of 1 attack every 2 to 3 days, shipping lines are hitting back. This company invested $200,000 US on global positioning devices and satellite technology to keep track of all its 70 vessels.
Basically, this is the brain of the system. It identifies the vessel. This part here, it sends signals to the satellite, where if there's any distress, they will send the signal to my handphone, to my control room, and also to the authorities in Singapore. Kilo Tango, this is Mike Bravo, over.
When a ship is attacked, the captain triggers an alarm.
Please check for me, how is our tracking system, is it working?
The company's 24-hour control room will be alerted, and naval patrols in the area can rush to its rescue. So where then is the magic button?
We have a emergency button on board the ship. I cannot tell you where the button is for security reason, of course.
Even if the captain never makes it to the button, the alert still goes out when a ship deviates from its route. That's usually a sign that there's been an attack.
They range from small group of pirates who just go on board to steal for their own requirement to a bigger syndicates. Okay, they go on board and held the crew for ransom, ask for big monies, which we have ever faced before. Okay, there are some serious cases where they kill the crews and throw them overboard.
Seven hours into its port stay, the mood at the megaship has become less intense. On the mega crane, after a full day's shift, and with its target on track, Kang finally heads down to spend what's left of this Sunday with his young son.
Definitely he knows I'm operating a crane, and whenever we pass by Keppel Road, he will point, my crane number 20. He knows that I'm working on a key crane, and he's happy. Of course, he's curious, he's young, he's also very curious, but too bad I can't bring him up the crane. Maybe with this program, yes, you can see what actually I'm doing every day.
Yes, where's GMT1 reply?
But the guys at traffic control aren't going home just yet.
Now, VLCC now, this is VTRS West, over.
Singapore is home to some of the world's largest oil refineries. This afternoon, a tugboat has been dispatched to guide in a tanker heading for the oil terminal, where massive amounts of crude oil is refined. If this tug gets it wrong, all traffic could come to a standstill.
This is Singapore VTRS. Question.
The VLCC Nile. Its very name sums up this modern sea monster, a very large crude carrier. Only a third of the VLCC is above water, the rest weighted down by tons of crude. The VLCC's route around the port is confined strictly to deep waters. So at traffic control, every ship around it is warned to stay clear.
When a VLCC starts to cross, it's like you have a big fella running across a busy road, and everybody have to be really, keep an eye, because he being constrained by draft, probably it is easier for you to avoid her rather than she avoid you.
Hancock guides the VLCC slowly through the deep water channel, obeying each rule of the port's traffic separation scheme. This system runs the port's shipping lanes like the streets of a city block, with one-way lanes, traffic junctions, yellow boxes, and danger zones.
This little box that you are looking at in the traffic separation scheme is what we term as precautionary area. It's something like a T-junction, okay? You're coming out from the side road to join the main road. You have to look left, look right, left again, make sure that everything is clear before you drive on to join the main road.
It is not like you see a road, you have divider nicely paved, you got a barrier to say, yeah, okay, I'm keeping within this lane. At sea, it is imaginary. It is all plotted on a chart, and then navigators are trained, competent to plot their position at sea.
Out at sea, 4 tugboats keep the VLCC strictly along the route planned by traffic control.
Pilot set now, ready to pull.
A tug of war breaks out between the boats and Goliath. If the VLCC slips away and gets grounded, the world's busiest port could be shut down by a massive oil slick. Crude oil is one of the most volatile cargoes in the port. And when it's time for berthing, all it takes is one wrong move.
We request right ahead. Last, but we request right forward. Aim, line all clear. We fear because this is a terminal. Once any bang to the terminal, it might be dangerous. It can explode.
It will take 48 hours to pump out all the crude. When that happens, poisonous fumes will engulf the dock, so everyone is looking for a quick getaway.
Cap, Setna line, all clear, Cap.
Okay, sir. Finished. Thank you very much.
Okay then, Cap. Thank you, Cap. Good day to you, Cap.
A safe berthing is always a relief, because in the past, things have gone wrong. In October 1997, a warning goes out from traffic control.
In White Cross, there is a VLCC tanker. She's heading in the wrong lane. Bearing from your vessel is approximately 068 degrees, range about 2.4 nautical mile.
Two very large crude carriers are headed for a collision. 6 more warnings go out. Finally, the two ships had just 10 minutes to turn around.
When I reached the site, there was a heavy smell of petroleum. It was very heavy smell everywhere. And using the boat, we moved around the ships and we moved in various areas. And every area that we covered, we shine the what you call searchlight onto the sea, and we can see black oil. When daylight broke, you can see that the whole sea was all covered with black oil.
Port officials were faced with an oil slick that threatened to paralyze the port and close the main shipping lane between the Indian and Pacific Oceans. The port now turned to what was then a new technology. Armed with predictions of current and wind directions, they focused on the vulnerable spots and licked the slick in 3 weeks. Back then, this massive spill was the port's worst nightmare. That has since changed.
The additional new element which has come about after the September 11 incident is the security. So safety now includes security.
15 September 2004. The world's news cameras scramble for a shot. 4 hours out of port, sailing in international waters, a ship has been hijacked and its crew taken hostage. The navies of 5 countries joined forces for the rescue. This afternoon, it was just an exercise, an annual war game between the Singapore Navy and its allies. Countries with much to lose if the sea lanes into the port are not kept safe and open. As airports around the world tighten security, ports like Singapore are bracing themselves to be the next terrorist target.
As we make our approach, like usual, keep your eyes out. Got any personnel you see?
We mapped out what are the likely scenarios. There could be a container, there's some bomb, some high explosive loaded, and then there's a how are we going to detect this, how are we going to take care of this. Another scenario would be a small boat packed with explosives, or even can drive into one of these sensitive vessels and can be a very disastrous kind of scenario or incident.
The Port of Singapore is home not just to megaships, but also to thousands of small vessels ferrying sailors and supplies. In the wrong hands, any one of these could become a deadly weapon. It hasn't happened in Singapore, but it has happened before. 6 October 2002, a small boat believed to be linked to Al-Qaeda rams into a French tanker, the Limburg. On board, 158,000 tons of crude oil. Two years earlier, another small vessel, packed with explosives and manned by suicide bombers, hits the American warship, the USS Cole. 17 servicemen die in the attack. Half the world away, port officials in Singapore start a trial to install tracking devices to keep an eye on small boats in port.
Oh, Captain, I'm from MPA.
Inspectors also spring frequent surprise checks to make sure the captains of these boats are who they claim to be. and they will be asked to declare their movements during their stay in port. Meanwhile, off the Straits of Singapore, the Resilience, a ship of the Singapore Navy, is on patrol. The oil tankers, the liquefied gas carriers, and the oil terminal are all being watched. Armed with infrared binoculars, they train their sights on any unusual movement up to 20 kilometers away. Like a small boat heading the wrong way that could turn fuel carriers into floating bombs and bring the world's busiest port to its knees. When you're already the world's busiest port, how much bigger can you get? How about double? At the western limits of the Port of Singapore, a new container terminal is being built to move another 20 million containers a year. The price tag for all of this? Over $4 billion. For that price, everything about this terminal gets custom designed, including the land it stands on. 26 new docks will house the megaships of the future. They'll be built with huge concrete blocks called caissons. Cast on site, they will hold back the soil and will support the weight of the cranes that will eventually stand above them.
Fueled by the growth of China as a manufacturing hub for the world, we do see very positive outlook for container growth in this part of the world. And we would like to make sure that we're able to handle the biggest ships that are going to come to PSA Port.
Phase 1 of this new terminal has opened, and it's loaded with the latest in crane technology. It needs just 6 to 7 operators to run all 44 of these new generation bridge cranes. That's 1 man to every 6 cranes. So where are they? Meet the port's Millennial Edition crane operators. No vertigo, no hard hats, just climate-controlled game arcade comfort. Yes, it's the kind of job that inspires a grown man's childhood fantasies.
Probably I would wonder that maybe the contents of the containers inside might be a Lamborghini car. You know, Michael Jackson's equipment.
Oh well, too bad. Edwin doesn't get to use the gamma rays. It's now 6 in the evening, 2 hours before Roro sets sail again. The car jockeys have outdone themselves. 2 hours ahead of schedule, the last car gets squeezed in without a scratch. And that's the final whistle.
Listen here, we have just completed the operation today. We are supposed to finish at 1800 by right, but then we finished earlier than that. And so far so good, no accident, accident free, and job well done to every one of you. Cheer for the day, man.
Just days away from the Chinese Lantern Festival, and Singapore is looking, well, like any other modern city. With ships bringing goods from all over the world, few cities remain isolated from the global village. Even at the local bazaars, there's no escape from the American-inspired rides, Hong Kong paper lanterns, fruits from this morning's shipment, and don't forget the photo opportunity with the Made in Japan cameras. Everything was brought here and will be carried everywhere else from a port that keeps on going 24/7. However, at the megaship, there's no celebration. The extra containers it is taking on are going to keep the ship in port for another 3 hours.
Slightly later than what we expect. So we are estimated to sail around 02:03 hours.
It's 2 in the morning before the final containers are secured. The ship is finally ready to go. The captain is anxious to leave.
Hi, how's it going?
And 10 minutes before departure, the Shenzhen calls traffic control one last time.
Traffic control, this is OOCL Shenzhen. We are ready to leave now, over.
OCL Shenzhen, this is Kappa Control. Ready, you can proceed out. Over.
20 hours, 5,000 tons of diesel, and 7,000 containers later, the ship is on its way. But if you think you can call it a night, time for a reality check. This is the world's busiest port, and 3 in the morning seems as good a time as any for another hectic start at the end of another busy day.